Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we're going to look at the Bitcoin charts, do some TA. We'll try to make sense of this up and down Bitcoin action. We'll look at the longer term timeframes and the shorter term timeframes. And we'll put a particular focus on the golden ratio and the golden fib retracement and extension tool. So let's get into the charts. So I want to start here on the monthly chart. And I'm just going to draw some fibs here on the chart, and we'll pay particular attention to the 0.618 fib and the 1.618 fib. And 1.618 is known as the golden ratio. To just explain the golden ratio briefly here, just looking at this top line of numbers here, basically starting with the number 1 and followed by another 1, and then just adding these two together to get the next number gives us 2. And then we add these two numbers 1 and 2 together to get 3. So the next number in the sequence is always adding the previous 2. You can see we get 5, then 8, then 13, which is 8 plus 5, 21, 34, and obviously this can go forever. And if we divide any two numbers here in this sequence, you can see 1 divided by 1 is 1, 2 divided by 1 is 2, 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, and then 1.7, 1.6. And what we find is these numbers converge to the number of 1.618. Any two numbers that you take in this line will give you 1.618, and that's known as the golden ratio. And we can see that here, that as we keep going along that chain, any two numbers that you divide together will become eventually 1.618. And we can see they just converge here at 1.618 the longer we go along this line. So this number can also be represented by 1 plus root 5 over 2, or this infinite sum here, which goes on forever, or this infinite sum here also. So it is quite interesting in a mathematical way, but it's also found everywhere in nature. And it's a ratio that's also quite attractive to the eyes. So the face is actually made up of this ratio, measuring distances, say, between the eyes and the top of the head to the bottom of the chin. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but you can find this everywhere. And it's also quite useful when looking at charts. So just a bit of an introduction about how we get that golden ratio. So just starting here on the monthly chart for Bitcoin, first monthly candle that made a lower low, and taking it from the bottom to the top, you can see that golden pocket here, which contains that golden ratio number here. And we can see we did come back to that golden pocket area. And now I'm going to use the fib extension here, taking it from the top in 2017 all the way to the bottom of the bear market. And what we can see here is that 1.618 level here is also in this golden pocket area. So we do have that golden pocket appearing twice here. And also looking at this pullback here, this run up in 2019, this 14k down to the stock market crash here. What we can also see is the 2.618 also lines up in this area. So we have these 3 points of confluence here. It shows how important this 618 level is. Now I want to look at these extensions using the logarithmic scale instead of the regular scale. So just looking at these separately, first if we look at this run up here, we saw we came back to that golden pocket. And if we change this to the logarithmic scale, what we find is the all-time high in 2017 lines up exactly with that golden pocket, the 0.618 level. So just to go back to the regular scale, we can see that golden pocket here lines up with the pullback, and on the log scale it lines up with the 2017 all-time high. And now just looking at that fib extension from the all-time high in 2017 to the bear market low, this is on the regular scale. We had that 1.618 level here, which has acted as support. And also we even see the golden pocket here, which was resistance this whole area till we broke above it and then we blasted off. And if we switch this to the logarithmic scale, what we can see is that 1.618 pretty much got exactly the top of this run here, all the way up at 63.5. Just to flip back so you can see it on regular and on logarithmic. And finally, we'll look at the fib extension here from this 14K level down to the stock market crash at 4K. This is on the regular scale. We pull back to that 2.618 level. And if we go on the logarithmic scale, we can see we pull back exactly to the 1.618 level. So that's regular scale, and that's logarithmic scale. And just to show those all together on the regular scale, we can see how they all converge at this point where we currently bounced from. And on the logarithmic scale, we can see it's getting all these levels, the top, the pullback, the all-time high here from 2017, the point where we started really taking off here, and even taking that move here using this monthly low to the top and extending it to the downside. We see the 1.618 here, pretty much got the bottom of the bear market. You can also see on the logarithmic chart, we have this trend line drawn here on the weekly, connecting the stock market low and also getting a touch point here. We can see we haven't closed a weekly candle below this trend line yet. We have come down a few times with a wick, but so far this is acting as support, and starting next week we would need to see it open around 36,420, maintain this trend line with the bodies of the candles. So that's another level of support. So just zooming in a bit closer here on the daily, and we'll do some fib retracements here. So we'll start from this low here at 30K, and the highest candle after that here was at 42.6, and we've stayed within that range. So if we just slide that across, we can see that 0.618 level here we've come back to, and we've touched it pretty much exactly on this candle. So this is a good area where we might get a bounce. We can see it also acted as support here. We can also take a smaller fib retracement here from this low to the high up here, and we can see it pretty much lines up with the other golden pocket here. So it would be good to see Bitcoin get support here and hold it, and this would also be a higher low based on the previous low. So now looking at the RSI and the stochastic RSI on the daily, and I've just noticed this trend line here, just connecting the lows. So we'd like to see Bitcoin hold this trend line also on the RSI, and it correspond also around with that golden pocket area. And just showing the stochastic RSI zoomed in also.